Hey, it's Joe, Graybench Electronics. Welcome back to the pedal teardown series where I take apart new and interesting pedals and show you what's going on inside. Today we have the Chorus Ensemble from Retro-Sonic. Alright, so this is the Chorus Ensemble from Retro-Sonic. This is a Boss CE-1 clone. The Boss CE-1 is that sort of big, gray, original Boss chorus pedal, maybe the first chorus pedal ever made, definitely one of the first guitar pedals. The only thing that predates that would be like fuzz boxes. This exact version of the Retro-Sonic Chorus is not made anymore. Retro-Sonic is still around. They still make the chorus pedal based on a CE-1, but it just says chorus on the top and it's a 9-volt, standard 9-volt DC input, rather than this pedal, which is a 12-volt AC input. So this uses a standard 12-volt AC adapter, so that's outputting 12 volts AC for inputs 120 volt AC input, and all it is inside here is just a little transformer. It transforms down 120 to the 12 volt AC for its output. There's no rectification or filtering, it's just a transformer. This pedal is special to me because it was actually my first ever boutique pedal before I really knew what that even meant, before I knew that you could just be a person building guitar pedals by yourself. You didn't need like a big manufacturing plant or a whole bunch of engineers to come up with the pedal like Boss or Ibanez or Digitech, before I even really understood like how approachable and attainable the goal of making your own guitar pedals could be. I picked up this pedal used at a guitar shop. It was sort of sitting in the back of the case, kind of dusty. I think it was like $100 or so. And I tried it and I really liked it. Came with the AC adapter, and so I bought it just not knowing what it was. I had sold that one. This isn't that one. This is a different one, but it was this model. And so this one's kind of special to me because it was my first ever boutique pedal, and was one of the things that led me down the road to learning more about guitar pedals, learning about how you could build guitar pedals, how it's not that difficult, and ultimately making this YouTube channel. So this pedal was a part of that. So like I said, Retro-Sonic still makes a chorus pedal. It's a standard 9-volt DC input pedal. But this version and the newer one are both based on the Boss CE-1. I have the schematic for the Boss CE-1, and we'll look at that in a little bit. But for now, let's just check out the pedal here. These are pretty rare. If you go searching for them, you can find a couple sold reverb listings over the years, and not much information besides that. You kind of have to actually scroll pages in Google, which is something I more or less never do. There's a few web pages in Japanese about these pedals, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of information, so we're going to open it up today. As far as the exterior, obviously we have the Retro-Sonic Chorus Ensemble silkscreen. We have the CE-1 based layout here, so we have the output control, level control, chorus intensity, the vibrato, rate, and depth. We have our bypass or turn on, turn off foot switch here. Feels like a standard latching foot switch, and then chorus vibrato. This switches between the chorus effect and the vibrato effect. Two 5mm red LED indication lights for bypass on or off, and the chorus or vibrato condition. Top mounted jacks, 1/4-inch jacks, and 12-volt AC DC jack. It's still a standard 2.1mm barrel jack. It's just 12-volt AC instead of 9-volt DC. Enclosure is a standard 1590 BB. It does have a signature on the side here that I don't know if that's original or if it's from the builder or from some, I got this second, third, fourth hand. I don't know how many people have had it before me, so I don't know where that's from, but I'm going to leave it there. The paint doesn't appear to be a powder coat. I don't know if it's like a lacquer or something, but it's not, this doesn't have that sort of thick look of powder coat. It looks thinner. And the knobs here are the MXR style skirted knobs. That's about it for the exterior. Let's go ahead and crack it open. All right, so here is the inside of the Retro-Sonic Chorus Ensemble. So like I said in the intro, this is a clone or a faithful recreation, I guess you could say, to the Boss CE-1 Chorus. The heart of the CE-1 Chorus and most analog choruses of that era is one of the Bucket Brigade devices from Panasonic. This one specifically is the MN3002. Bucket Brigade device is essentially a long chain of capacitors in which you take the original signal and you dump it into a capacitor, and then it discharges into a next capacitor, on and on down the line, sort of like a bucket fire brigade bringing buckets of water to a fire. I'll put a link to the Electro-Smash article that goes over BBDs, because they do a way better job of explaining it than I can. But just know that's what this chip does. This is what creates the chorus, and in this case also the vibrato effect. This is a fairly complicated design. The original Boss CE-1 also was fairly complicated. We have a bunch of power supply stuff up here that is, I believe, a pretty faithful recreation of the original Boss CE-1 power supply. So you can see here, the Boss CE-1 obviously connected directly to the wall for wall power, and then it had the transformer here. This essentially just externalizes that transformer. So you can think of this transformer, your DC or AC power supply, being like having an external version of the transformer that was built into the CE-1. Then it's fused here, and then it comes in here to the bridge rectifier here. This pedal also has a bridge rectifier. It's a little hard to see, but it's right down. Can you see it? No, it's not really. It's right down in there. The part number is a BD101, I believe. And then this power supply circuit appears to have been recreated. I at least see some familiar transistor names. And then ultimately what we're creating here is a bipolar power supply. So it's a little hard to read, but up here you have positive 14 volts and then positive 13 volts here. And on downside here we have negative 14, negative 13 volts. These are going to be the power supply rails for the pedal. And you can see here it connects to the op amps, like IC1 here. IC1 in the original pedal was a TA7504S. In this pedal it's either a TLO72 or a 1458 over here. But you can see in the schematic the power supply is connected to the positive and negative rails of that op amp, and so theoretically the signal could swing positive 13 volts or negative 13 volts for a total range of 26 volts. Op amps rarely operate perfectly rail to rail, especially not the ones in here, so it won't be quite that. There will also be some loss in the power supply, so it's probably more like 20, 23, 24 volts. As far as component choices, the resistors all appear to be, it's hard to tell if these are metal film or carbon film. They're sort of tan, like you expect carbon film, but they're also not the right shade of tan, I guess you could say. So it's possible these are metal film. The capacitors are these film capacitors. I believe these are made by Panasonic. The electrolytics are Panasonic as well. The transistors are a smattering. There's a JRC transistor here. There are some Panasonic, I recognize the font, at least Panasonic transistors. MPSA 18s, which is probably Motorola. There's a trim pot here, present right next to the BBD, which is also present in the original Boss CE-1 right here, this 5K trimmer. That's right there as well, and you can see 502, it's a 5K. Foot switches are the pretty standard blue 3-pole double throw foot switches. On the back here, you can see that trim pot goes right here, and then there's a hole through, and you might be able to even sneak like a precision screwdriver in there to adjust it from the back. I'm not sure if that's exactly why the hole is put there, but it's possibly why. You might notice on the back here, it appears that there maybe have been some parts replaced. What I think is interesting about that is the parts that are replaced, so that's like this capacitor here, over here, this resistor right here, they're all using the same type parts as the original build. So I wonder if this wasn't done by the original builder, Retro-Sonic, as sort of like as they're manufacturing it, they're making little tweaks, and they sort of had boards built up and then retroactively apply these changes. That's my guess, because often if you're going to swap parts out, you're probably going to end up with different type parts unless you already have the original parts in stock. Or it's possible that whoever did the replacement sourced the correct parts. That's possible too. As far as off-board components, we have the plastic enclosed 1/4-inch jacks. They appear at first sight to be stereo jacks, but this tab up here in fact doesn't connect to anything. It's just maybe a tie-off point. So they are both mono jacks. The potentiometers are all alpha, and they are all solder lug, so all of the pots are connected with wires to their specific spots on the board. There's a lot of time to build this pedal. There's a lot of work in wiring up all these. We generally prefer now to use PCB-mounted potentiometers to save on this time. So building these pedals was pretty laborious compared to today's standards. We also have wire-connected little LED assemblies. These 5mm LEDs have these they're essentially enclosed in little cases, and just wires running up here to different spots on the board. The enclosure here, if you can read that, it says NSC, and that is a 1590 BB size, if I haven't said that. AC adapter is the standard Kobicon style with the internal plastic nut. All the transistors on the board are soldered straight to the board, but all the ICs are socketed, which is a good idea. ICs can burn out from time to time, and being able to quickly swap them out means that, one, if a pedal has that problem, this pedal doesn't have to go back to Retro-Sonic for repair. Retro-Sonic can just send out replacement ICs. Or if you take it in to get it someone else repair, like third-party repair, they're repairable cheaper because you can just pop out the IC and pop in a new one, assuming you have it in stock. For the TLO72s, that's no problem. The 1458, they're still available. getting a replacement BBD chip, that's another matter. I don't know. So obviously Panasonic does not make the BBDs anymore. There was a period of time where a pedal builder's name I can't remember was getting BBDs made on the original Panasonic dies, but I don't think they do that anymore. I don't even know if they make pedals anymore. And right now, the company who is making BBD chips is it's a company owned by Behringer called Cool Audio, and they make BBD chips. I don't think they make the 30002. So getting a replacement one of these for a Boss CE-1 or one of these Retro-Sonic pedals would be difficult. All right, I thought it'd be interesting to just look at some voltages inside the pedal, seeing as how we have that sort of quirky 12-volt AC input. So we have our positive 13, negative 13 volt output from the original Boss CE-1, and we can see our ICs are connected. Some of these here, like IC3 is connected to the 14 volt supply here, positive 14, negative 14. Over here, IC1 is on the positive 13, negative 13. The BBD is connected on pin 11 to the either positive or negative 13. The way they drew the schematic is they didn't really differentiate. They have a black arrow for both positive and negative 14 volts, and then an open or like an enclosed triangle for the 13 volts. So let's check the BBD first. We should have 14 volts on pin 11. Actually, first let's look at the AC voltage. That's what I was going to do. So AC voltage coming in. So that's coming in for the adapter, about 13.8 volts. The reason why it's higher than 12 volts is because that AC adapter, or AC adapters in general, are rated for outputs at whatever the specified voltage is at that specific current draw. This one's rated for 12 volt AC at 1500 milliamps or 1.5 amps. If you're not drawing that much current, then the voltage is going to be higher. Right now we're getting about 13.8 volts. That AC voltage is going to go to that bridge rectifier that's going to spit out some higher DC voltage. It's going to be the 1.717 times the AC voltage. And then through the power circuitry, it's going to be dropped back down to, theoretically, if we're getting close to the Boss CE-1, it's going to be 13 volts or so. So pin 11, that's 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, I counted from the wrong side. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oops. Oh, I'm on AC voltage. Let's switch over to DC. Yeah, so negative 13 volts right there. Oh, it's a 7-pin. I'm wondering, like, that third option would be it's a 7-pin, or it's a 14-pin chip. So 1, 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Negative 13 volts. Okay. Let's look at some of the ICs. I don't know which IC is which. I'm going to guess. Well, let's see if we can figure it out. So IC1 here. IC1 says it has pin 7 connected to positive 13 volts and pin 4 connected to negative 13 volts. So pin 4, yeah, there's your negative 14 volts. And then pin 7, get in there. Okay, so that must not be that then, because pin 7 isn't the positive 14 volts. Okay, so this IC, we have the negative voltage on pin 4 and the positive on pin 8. So that is probably this IC down here, IC4, doing stuff around the intensity and the rate knob. Let's look at this chip down here. This is the 1458. Oh, it's chorusing. It's making it hard to read these voltages. Can I get the pin 4 there? Yeah, there's negative 14. I don't know if you can see that. My hand might be in the way. Negative 14 volts there. And then theoretically, pin 7. It's chorusing, so it's not able to read it fast enough. Okay, pin 3. Let's check this one. So this should be 4. There's your negative 14 volts. And then pin 7 over here. 14. So probably what's happening here is the pinouts for the ICs that were used in the Boss pedal are actually different. So they've had to modify a little bit. But we are seeing, what I like to see is we are seeing the correct voltages. We're seeing positive, negative 14 volts, positive 13 volts, negative 13. So in terms of recreating just the voltage conditions inside the Boss CE-1, it feels like Retro-Sonic got that pretty much right because we are seeing those correct voltages. One last little interesting piece of info on the back door here. It's marked unit number 143, and it was built or finished on August 30th, 2005, and it's signed by the builder, Tim. So that is the Retro-Sonic Chorus Ensemble. let's go ahead and put it back together. All right, that was a teardown on the Chorus Ensemble from Retro-Sonic. If you have any questions or recommendations for a pedal you want to see on an upcoming teardown episode, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing. I'm Joe from Graybench Electronics. Thanks for watching.